Well, it's in many ways, Jeff. It's the end game, because this has been moving in a certain direction for a long, long time. One of the big penny drops for me over the last 30 years has been to see that there is a force, I would say ultimately not human, that has been orchestrating humanity on a journey to its own complete enslavement. What you've had is the development of humans to become intellectually intelligent enough to build their own prison, but not wise enough to see that that's what they're doing. And
all true.
if you gave computers, to use an analogy, Stone Age man, what would they do with it? They wouldn't know what it was. They wouldn't know how to use it. And what I'm saying, after looking at this over such a long period, is that the force that I'm talking about had the knowledge of computers and what we now call smart technology and AI, while humans were knocking rocks together. The takeover has taken a very long time, and it's been this process of controlling human perception and developing and manipulating and molding human perception to the point where, like I say, we can build the technology that enslaves us without realizing we're building the technology that enslaves us. So it's been a long journey. And of course, when we look at these from this perspective I'm talking about, when we look at these technologies now, you quite rightly say it's happening so fast. The reason it's happening so fast, or one of the foundation reasons, is technology is being developed so fast to become more and more able to control on a deeper and deeper level in terms of human perception. What I'm saying,
David, that is the prime directive. The
yeah,
word control. It's all about control. Very quickly, just as a quick aside, I had a brilliant nanotechnology scientist on a couple, 3 weeks ago, and he laid out the issue of life as it really is, as you know, and as you've been presenting for 30-some years now. But he did it from a nanotech perspective, and he even included the fact that the tall blondes, for example, those who can pass for human, are here working with us in bio-nano and electro-nano and nano-nano, all kinds of different technologies. That's what you mentioned earlier, ultimately will be seen to have been non-human. They're here now, they're working amongst us, and it's almost unbelievable for most people. So that's how they get away with it, as you know.
Yeah, the bigger the gap between what's happening and what people can perceive is happening, the greater secrecy and ability you have to hide what you're doing, because people then wave their hand at the truth and say that's a nonsense, that's impossible. And the point I'm making, which relates to that, is that there aren't people sitting round a table strumming their fingers waiting for the next nerd to develop in some garage in Silicon Valley the next level of technology which gives them the next level of control. What I'm saying, and it relates to what you've just said, is that this technology has been available all along, and it's being brought out into the public arena in a particular sequence. And I'm not saying all technology isn't developed by nerds. I'm saying the key transformation of society technology is being brought out. And to do that, they have to keep giving us cover stories for how it was found. I watched a BBC documentary on Silicon Valley. It wasn't very good because it was the BBC, but what it did have was this sequence of garage doors in California. and it was
Huh.
saying as each garage door came up, this technology was developed by this behind this garage door. This and I'm seeing the elite saying, hey fellas, too many garage doors, okay? Change the cover story. Too many garage doors, because
They wore it out.
this is being brought. Of course, we all know about the underground bases, the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, and this is where this interchange is taking place. So this stuff is, when people like Ray Kurzweil at Google predict that AI will be connected to the human brain, or at least that will start by 2030, and he claims a 80% accuracy rate in predicting the development of technology. Well, I have to say, it's not too difficult to predict the unfolding of technology if you know the agenda for the unfolding of technology. It's actually quite straightforward to predict. And I say that this thing has been planned all along, and I call it in the books the assimilation of human consciousness through AI. And as I've asked a number of times in recent books and presentations, does anyone ask what AI is? Yes, okay, on one level it's algorithmic codes. Then you go to the next level where they talk about machine learning. But ultimately, what is AI? And what I'm saying is that this AI human connection is actually about, if you go deep in the rabbit hole, connecting this non-human force to the human mind so the human mind can be assimilated into it. And humans, instead of being free-thinking individuals, they become a hive mind to this non-human force. And all I need to do, Jeff, is quote Ray Kurzweil again, where he's saying by 2030, the human brain will be connected to AI. And what they're not telling you about, as you've already mentioned, is the nanotechnology. That's the real level of connection. They're talking about microchips you can see, but nanotechnology is really how they want to get into the brain. And then he says that when that connection's made, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking as we know it now is basically negligible. This is not me. This is him being quoted here. So
Yeah.
this is the process we're looking at, and it's so fantastic and so far out, as you point out, to the great majority of people that they would just say, "Come on." Well, no, you come on, because it's time to look at what's happening and open your mind to possibilities that have been systematically suppressed all your life.
David, we are about to be declared second-rate beings on this planet. AI will ultimately declare itself to be the superior intelligence on the planet. Doesn't die, doesn't get sick, doesn't have to worry about cancer. Limitless, self-replicating. It just has no obvious flaws. That's where it's going to end up. It'll take a little while, but it's going there. And one of the things that I heard recently that gave me particular cause to laugh for a moment or two was the story that they're trying now to teach AI morality and common sense. Now this is hilarious. Whose common sense, whose morality is this AI going to be programmed with? That's the big question.
Well,
so there you go.
It will be the morality, in quotes, of this controlling force. And you can start to pull together with this a lot of things that are happening in the world that don't appear to be on the face of it connected to what we're talking about. And I would bring up one straight away, which is the transgender hysteria. Where I'm coming from, as I've explained in the last book in some detail, we're heading towards not just the AI human. We are heading towards, maybe a bit further, but not as far as people think, to the synthetic human. And the synthetic human will have no sexes. It will not be able to procreate in the way that humans do now. And basically, that's the world described by Aldous Huxley in Brave New World in the 1930s. And so what this whole, you see, I have a way of looking at the world, which says, what's the agenda? Answer: anything you can't have an alternative opinion about. Look around the society and look about world events. What can't you have an alternative opinion about? What do you get abuse and censorship for having an opinion about? And one of them, of course, is transgender. And what they've done, it's the foot in the door technique, as I call it. They give you an excuse to introduce the subject. In this case, we shouldn't be discriminatory against transgender people. Well, I'm coming out with my hands up on that. We shouldn't be discriminatory against anyone. But that's just the foot in the door. Then what happens is the door is swung wide open, and we enter a whole different stage of it, where it's not about not being discriminatory against transgender people. It's about manipulating, particularly the young, because they're going to be the adults when this is supposed to come in, to be confused about their gender and question their gender when they weren't questioning it and they weren't confused before. I mean, the number of particularly girls in England who are going through this gender confusion now, it is increased by thousands of percent in the last few years. And what's happening, I strongly suggest, is that the conditioning is underway towards this no gender human. So first you have two clear genders, and then you start fusing them and confusing them, and you have this transition period, which we're in now, and then at the other end of it, you come out with the no gender human, which is designed to be synthetic human, not biological.
You just said it. Confusing. There are over 50, I think 53 known gender assignments now that you can choose from. It's gotten to be that insane. And that's total chaos. That is tearing down all order of society, civility, civilization. Gender confusion. That's the first step. And you're right. That's where it's going.
And when you have professors of biology shouted down and, quote, investigated for the extraordinary, discriminatory, appalling statements, transphobic statements, that men and women are biologically different, you know you're in a madhouse. I watched a video the other week, Jeff, in which it was at a university in America, and there was a big audience there. And there was a panel, and they were talking about gender. And this woman on the panel simply said this: men are overwhelmingly, generally, taller than women. That's all she said. There was a walkout by a number of people, and the camera followed them out into the lobby, and they said, these walkout people, we're not staying in there and listening to that fascism. So we've now got a definition of fascism, which is saying that men are generally taller than women. Now, like I said earlier, once you have this extraordinarily obvious and blatant and extreme shutting down of debate, you know it's the agenda, for a simple reason. If you can't win the debate, and saying that men and women are not biologically different is actually impossible to win in a rational discourse, then you simply don't have the debate. You shut it down. Look at all these other areas where you can't have a debate, where Facebook and all these people, YouTube will censor you. They're censoring you because they can't win the debate.
Hate speech.
They can't win the debate, so they shut it down. And these are all the red flags. What's the agenda? What can you have an opinion about?
Here's the story. They're labeling it as hate speech, as you well know. Google, YouTube now has hate speech banning. They're going overboard with it. Hate speech, according to Google and YouTube, is not allowed on YouTube. We remove content promoting violence, or hatred against individuals or groups based on any of the following attributes. Now, listen to these words and subjects. If you mention these things on YouTube, your video is gone. Any of these terms are instant banning. 1. Age, caste, disability, ethnicity. If you mention ethnicity, you're gone. Gender identity. Thank you, David Icke. Nationality, race, immigration status will get you banned. If you mention religion, sex or gender, sexual orientation, or victims of a major violent event and their kin, or even the status of a veteran, you will be banned for using hate speech. That's how they're doing it. And since it's a private company, they can pretty well set the rules the way they want. That's why the internet was set up with American tax dollars by so-called private industry, so it can be run outside the bounds of normal government.
That's exactly right. They've set the internet up so through algorithms they can dictate what people see and hear, and they are quite happy for the media that existed before that to be diluted and lose audience, because they want the audience on the internet, because the algorithms will then be the censor.
Now, unfortunately, I think we are, honestly, pragmatically speaking, past the time of being able to avert what is in store for us, simply because we've been disenfranchised, deplatformed is the current word, from all access to the mainstream media, by which we might have reached out to the masses to help them better understand. You would have been able to address millions on major national television, but we've been excluded from that long ago by design. So we are now really without the means to communicate and make the argument clear. So that's tough. That's tough. No break, Todd. We're going to go through this. Thanks. So there we have the little bit from George Orwell. I think it's a classic, and he was correct. In fact, some of the things that I think you have said over the many, many years, Orwell would have just been extremely proud to have heard spoken.
Well,
He was a member of the. Go ahead.
So, sorry, Jack. I have a view of Orwell and Eric Blair's real name, of course, and Aldous Huxley and Brave New World. From this perspective, yes, it was imagination to an extent. Yes, that saw the way the world was going to an extent. But I think that myself that they have been so accurate that they knew more than just perceiving from their imagination. And I've quoted people in my books, insiders, over the years, who were describing the world today in 1969, for instance, which is 20 years after Orwell's book came out, who described the internet that no one was even talking about and how it would work, that was describing the fact that there was going to be mass movements of people, so that would basically transform societies by mass immigration, because they say that it's much easier to change society in basically a state of flux than it is to change a society where people have a sense of that society's history and that society's way of doing things. This was in 1969, and there's a stream of other things that have happened and that were described in detail. And this would kind of links us in to what we were talking about earlier. See, because there is this other agenda, which is operating deep from the shadows, not the people you see. There are two worlds basically coexisting here. One world is the mainstream of human society that we recognize as the world. And that has a certain level of knowledge. And knowledge beyond that is suppressed, marginalized, attempted to be discredited. Then there's this other world, which operates from the shadows, which has a much greater, more expanded level of knowledge, including, most importantly, the nature of reality, and therefore the technological and other potential for manipulation that the human society world has no idea is possible, or no idea of the actual reality it's experiencing. So I feel very strongly, given that I have other evidence of people decades ago who were describing what is happening now. They had some knowledge, in fact they said they did, some of them, of this agenda, this other world agenda that operates on a completely different level of knowledge. And I can't believe that George Orwell and Aldous Huxley could have been so unbelievably accurate. I mean, the Brave New World chemical genetic manipulation is now becoming more and more obvious. And he was writing that in the 1930s. I can't believe that it was just from their imagination when they were so accurate, given that other people have been able to say this is what's going to happen because this is what we're going to do.
The best way to predict the future is to create it. They were in on the creation timeline. They knew. You're right, 100% correct. That wasn't just some imagined theme that they came up with. They knew, and they were trying, I guess, in their own way to warn those who have ears to hear. But it's all playing out, all of it. And the idea of two worlds, I think, is a very good one, because that is as succinct as we're going to get. There really is the world that most people see on a day-to-day basis, and then there is the other world that they never see, which is controlling that which they do see.
Exactly.
Very simple.
Exactly. And you know, you talking earlier about this censorship and hate speech. Well, it's clear more and more and more that the main prime advisors on what these internet giants censor and don't censor is coming from the Anti-Defamation League, which is a global hate group whose modus operandi is to get the public to hate their targets. So it's not about hate. It's not. I'll give you another example that it's not about hate. I've got a movie just come out called Renegade, and we had a premiere of it in Los Angeles. And
Yes.
the producers of the film were arranged for this premiere. And we were in a car heading for the Aero Theater in Santa Monica, which is owned by an organization called the American Cinematique. And the phone rang in the back of the car, and the producer was talking, and I was in the front of the car. He had his phone to his ear, and yet I still heard every word, because this guy at the other end was screaming. And this was part of the conversation. And this is 2 hours before the film was supposed to be played and people would be there to watch it. It was 5 minutes before we were going to arrive at the theatre for a technical run-through. And this was part of the conversation. Is this a film about David Icke? The producer says, well, yeah. Does it put him in a good light? Well, he comes over, well, yeah. We're not having a film then, basically. Now, if that film had demonized me, it would have run. And so it's not about hate. It's about getting people to hate what they perceive to be dangerous people who are putting out information that allows people to look at a situation from another angle. They don't want people seeing it from another angle, only one angle. Because where this is leading, and I have this phrase, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know the outcome that we're being taken towards, then daily events appear random. They appear to have no pattern, no meaning. They're just random events. When you know where we're being taken, daily events become very clear. The stepping stone to the outcome becomes very clear. And what we're being taken towards, very relevant as we speak about 1984, is a situation where people never see or hear anything that the authorities don't want them to see and hear. Now, of course, to bring that situation about, free speech has to go. Because while people have free speech and freedom to speak and freedom of opinion, there's the freedom to challenge the official narrative. And therefore, and of course, we've seen the impact on so many people of the official narrative being challenged in the last 10 years or so. So free speech is being targeted because they cannot reach their goal of total control of what people see and hear. Thus, basically total control of perception, because we get our perceptions from information received, and our perceptions lead to our behavior. So if you control information that people receive, you control perception to a vast extent, and thus you control behavior, what people will do, won't do, challenge, not challenge, etc. And so this is what we're looking at step by step. They're even talking about it, Jeff. People like YouTube, they're talking about the next stage. They're using that language. And it is this stepping stone to a point where you will not see or hear anything the authorities don't want. Anything, literally anything.
Anything.
Which through AI and algorithms they can bring about.
That's correct. This is... It's all happening so quickly. And I've said that earlier. I've said it many times, but it's true. They now know that they're past the point of worrying about any significant, meaningful pushback. They've got the public dumbed down through the government school system. They've got the public dumbed down through television, through sporting teams and sporting events and so-called music. My God, the people there's nothing proactive left in many people. There are exceptions, and many of them are listening to this program right now. But the idea of being proactive about life is anathema to the controllers. They want only reactive, Pavlovian, drooling, consuming idiots. And that's what they're going to end up with for the most part. And as you said in that interview that we have posted, they're going to sell this AI thing very cleverly. People will buy it. They'll suck it right up. They want to be smarter. They want to be the new advanced form of human being. This will be an easy con job, David. I don't see any problem at all for them.
Well, not a problem with a vast number of people, but more and more people are seeing it. There's no question, and I for one.
That's true.
Yeah,
true.
I for one am not.
They don't have any access.
No, but
they've got no access to speak. They're getting cut off.
That's right. But
the platform is the internet, so they're out.
I for one I'm not giving up on this, and I know you're not.
No.
But this is the whole point, and you can see it. You can see this division in people who are awakening to, hold on a minute, what's happening, and those who are not, by their response to 5G. You've got people now who are leading campaigns and trying to highlight the fact that 5G is going to be a catastrophe, not just in terms of human health, but human psychology. And then you've got others who go, hey, I can download me movies in seconds. Isn't it great? And you can actually see just in the reaction to 5G, this parting of the road between people who are starting to get it, or more than start to get it, some people, and those who have not got it at all. People say I talk about some weird stuff, some far out stuff. But how about that chair that you're sitting in isn't solid? How weird is that? This reality is nothing like we think it is.
When I saw what Icke is doing, I was a bit jealous on him. Wow, look at what this guy's doing.
I don't know if anybody else could do it but him, actually.
We are in a period now where speaking your truth is not just important, it's utterly crucial to where humanity goes from here. The world needs renegades.